Want to know how you can gain access to capital to jumpstart your journey to entrepreneurial success? For entrepreneurs who are just starting out or those who have been in business for years, Minority Business Access is your podcast. Welcome to our show, where we will guide you in avoiding the pitfalls and thriving in your chosen business. Now, on to the show with your host, Solomon Ali.
Hi, Vince. How are you?
Solomon, I am just doing fabulous. How about yourself?
Great. Welcome to MBA, Minority Business Access. I'm so glad you joined to talk to the audience today and share your experience. Now, I won't do you justice in introducing you, so I'm not going to deprive you of that. So I want you to introduce yourself and share with the audience who you are, some of the things that you have done in the past and things of that nature, so they'll understand why this is of such value to them. Okay?
Well, my name is Vince Guest. I'm president of a company out of California called UnCommon Rezultz, and we gave it that name because we don't do anything common. We don't do anything average. We don't do anything mundane. Everything we do has to be great, has to be exceptional for our clients and for our customers, so that we do things that are uncommon. And that's the kind of result that you're going to get.
So wait a minute. Let me see. Uncommon results, Vince, is what you're telling me. You guys solve people's problems. You go over and beyond the call of duty to make something work for them that they may not be aware of.
Yes, it's kind of like somebody might go to a bar and they want top shelf liquor.
Okay.
We give you top shelf services. We don't give you things that are going to be mundane or ordinary. It has to be, whatever we do has to be extraordinary.
Okay.
In fact, whatever you request that we do, we're going to always exceed your expectations.
All right. Well, Vince, I've known you for 15, 16 years. Okay. Tell the audience a little bit about Mr. Guest.
Well, presently, our company, UnCommon Rezultz, for example, one of the things that we do is we look at companies and help them grow and expand. So if you got a company that's doing $5 million a year and they want to do $10 million a year, we can help them do that, grow their revenues, grow their sales base, grow their profits. If you're doing $30 million a year, can we get you to 50 or 60? Probably can. But there's two components of that: is growing the revenue. We also do strategic marketing, consulting, technical marketing. We also provide, there's a personal development component, because if somebody's business is doing very, very well from a monetary standpoint, if they're having some other issues in terms of management and in terms of personal development, things, then also we'll deal with that too, because if one area is pulling one area down, we want to be able to look at it from a more holistic standpoint, so they've got some balance between their work and their personal lives. That's what UnCommon Rezultz does, so you get that kind of result. Previously, I worked for a company called Universal Bioenergy, a publicly traded company. We were one of the few minority owned and operated publicly traded companies. Of course, Solomon, we took that company that had been in business for several years, that had a lot of expenses, and we took it from basically zero revenue to about $80 million in about 2 years. And of course, those are audited numbers. I also worked as a consultant with another company I had called Aegis Energy International out of the LA area. And for several years, all of our we did consulting in terms of plant engineering and plant management, energy consulting. And all of our clients, Solomon, I may have told you, all of them were corporate companies. They were all Fortune 100 firms. We didn't do any companies at that time, maybe one. They were all Fortune 100 firms. We had firms like Citicorp, Beckman Industrial. We had firms like DuPont, Amoco Oil, Rockwell International, Northrop Aircraft. Those are our clients. We were one of the few that could do that.
Vince, let me say this. I share with people all the time, and I want you guys to really pay attention to this. Get with people who know their craft. Get with people who are good at what they do. Like Mr. Guest, I've worked with Vince man, 15, 16 years. I first met Vince through one of the MBAs that I had hired to help do financing for one of my companies. And personally, I had my first $1 million home that I had bought, and I was looking to refinance it back in the day. And basically, was getting the runaround. Go to Mr. Guest. He owned a huge mortgage company back in the day, and he gets it done in record time when everybody else was getting the runaround or acting like they couldn't get it done. So I know firsthand the experience that it takes to get things done. Then later, when I went through my trials and tribulations and losing everything, even to the point to where I wanted to take my own life because I couldn't pay my bills and things of that nature, and I'm living in an 18,000 square foot home. Okay, Mr. Guest was one of the first people to reach out to me and say, look, we got this gentleman named Dr. Craven with Universal Bioenergy. If you could really raise the money, are you willing to come and help and stuff like that? And I kept saying, no, I got stinky thinking and stuff like that. But eventually Vince got me over there. And I watched what he did in putting the business models and the business plan together to grow it. And I said, man, this is a person I want to work with. This is a person that, hey, I'll go raise the money and do this and work with him. So what I'm saying, I said all that to say this. People, you have to have people who are good, who know what they're doing. You have to have people who understand their craft. So, Vince, I didn't mean to give you a bigger plug than you gave yourself. Okay, so maybe I did do a pretty good job.
I always appreciate a plug, so.
Okay, take it from there. You did the Universal. Tell these people basically why should they call a Vince Guest? What can Vince do for them?
Well, let me just share just one more component of my background so they'll get a little bit more breadth of that. As you know, before when I was doing consulting work for these major Fortune 100 firms, I was also a director of corporate facilities and real estate. I had managed some of the biggest facilities and corporate assets in the United States. I worked for Trammell Crow, managed a 2 million square foot plant in Irvine, or facility in Irvine.
But you also was the youngest black person or white person that ever took those positions.
Yes, let me tell you about that briefly. Well, I used to work for TRW Aerospace Company. TRW Aerospace and Defense, which now is owned by Northrop Grumman in West LA. At one point, they used to have their plant and facilities there was a total of about 10 million gross square feet. They had about 22,000 people that worked there. I managed it when it was about 5.5 million square feet, probably $1 billion plus asset. Then I went to work for Trammell Crow Winthrop Management. Trammell Crow used to be the largest real estate development company in the United States. They were headquartered in Texas. They used to own and operate over 535 million square feet of office space, warehouse space, mixed-use space. And then they had joint ventured with a company out of New York called Winthrop. So they hired me as director of facilities and corporate real estate for a 2 million gross square foot facility.
That's huge. That's larger than a city, or some cities anyway.
That 2 million square feet based on 165 acres. There was 8,000 people worked there. Now, the interesting thing about that, I'm African American. Prudential Insurance had their headquarters there. Floor Daniels, which is one of the largest, probably one of the top 5 construction companies in the world, Floor Daniels headquarters was there. When I got that position, everybody before me in that position, and they were all white Americans, they were all men, and they were all about 50 plus. I got that position. I was the first African American in that position. And at that time, of course, the city of Irvine was predominantly white. It's mixed now with there's more African Americans there, more Asians and Indians and so forth. But I was the first African American in that position, and I was 38 years old. I was the youngest man ever, black or white, in that job.
Wow, that's amazing.
Right,
that is amazing.
So when I talk,
and you're from Kentucky.
Born and raised. I'm here in Charlotte right now visiting on business, but I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. We call it Derby City, home of Muhammad Ali, Churchill Downs, and Bourbon.
Wow. See, people, it doesn't matter where you start, but you have to be proficient. You have to read. You have to learn your craft. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to become an expert and an authority on the things that you're talking about, on the things that you're doing. That's why Mr. Guest was able to do and achieve what he achieved at 38 years old when other people, black or white, okay? See, we're not going to discriminate. We're just going to try to bring you the best talent so that you can access them and get the help that you need to develop and to grow your business. Mr. Guest, tell us about this journey, because I know it's a long journey.
Let me tell you a little bit about the journey. You asked about where I was born. I was born and raised, of course, in Louisville, Kentucky. And despite the fact, I ended up working in corporate America for some of the biggest corporations in the U.S., managed billions of dollars of physical assets, real estate assets, financial assets, and managed sites with thousands of employees. And I got real respected. I had a lot of good mentors, but it wasn't always that way.
You had mentors.
I had good mentors. When I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky, now we were raised in the projects.
Wow.
My family was raised in the housing projects, so sometimes people would see me, and I'd be at corporate events. I've been at corporate events, and I've had meetings with governors. For example, the former Governor Roberts of Virginia, his staff. I've been in meetings with former Governor Herbert of Utah, ambassadors, cabinet members, senators, and congressmen. But I came from humble beginnings. I had to work my way up and get help. But we were raised in the housing projects of Louisville, Kentucky. There was Cotter Homes and there was Southwick. And we called it Brick City.
Brick City?
Brick City. Okay. It was all concrete and steel. And so therefore, although we were raised poor,
So you weren't supposed to make it or achieve any of this?
We were not supposed to no, exactly. Our mother told us, although we may have been raised poor, we didn't have a poor mentality. So we had to get out of the projects. And one of the ways to do that was, of course, education.
Okay.
So we all had to go to school or learn some kind of craft or trade or college or something to get some good mentors to help guide us. So once we did that, we were able to, little bit by little bit, bootstrap with the help and assistance now to get out of the projects and get into maybe the working class, and then up into the middle class, and then of course upper middle class areas and so forth. But we started. But you might see the family now and see us maybe in better neighborhoods. But we were raised in the project. We were poor. In fact, we had a saying in Kentucky that if you were African American, if you were black and didn't have a lot of money, you were poor. But if you were low income and you were white, you were poor. So we as black Americans, we were poor, and we were trying to get promoted up to poor. So, but we came a long way since then. Yeah.
All right. Minority Business Access, our whole mission is to help people who are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs or who are already entrepreneurs, small business managers and things of that nature, or executives for companies, so that they can understand the process that it takes for a small business to go from its innate stage to that end, what that looks like and what that journey looks like. Can you speak to that?
Certainly can. One of the things that any young person is looking to do, they need to, first of all, determine what it is that the market needs. What sometimes people do, they say, well, I like to do this or provide this kind of product or service. Well, you might have a product or service that you like and love and have a passion for. That's good. But if you have a product or service that you like, but if there's no market for it, if there's no demand for it, if no one wants to buy it, you could spend a lot of wasted time and not get anywhere. So you want to be able to determine, look at what do you like to do? What does the market? You kind of reverse engineer that. So what does the market need? Where's the market now? Where is it growing in the next 1 or 2 years? So what is your niche? What is the area that you like to do? So who out there needs or wants what you have? And then if you can fulfill that niche. And if you specialize in that niche, you won't have a lot of competition. Plus, and make sure that you do what you do better than anybody else, which means whatever training you need, whatever education you need, whatever podcast you need to probably watch, whatever books you need to read, so that you can become proficient and you become an expert, you become in demand, where now you reposition the competition and you become the one to go to for that service or that product or that skill. Once you do that, competition becomes irrelevant.
So let me see if I can regurgitate some of what you just said for our viewers. Look at maybe perhaps not what you want to do, but also look at what the demand is in a particular industry or marketplace, and then apply your skill set and become very proficient and an authority or expert right there.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you might have a certain goal, but goals can change. For example, when you were 5 years old, you had certain goals when you were 5 and in first, second grade. When you were 10, and then those change. Your needs and wants change. When you're 15, your needs and wants change. By the time you get 18 or 20 years old, they change.
Right.
So
right.
what you like to do when you were 5 is different when you were 21. A lot of times people come out of college, if they go to college and don't finish, they may have had a certain aspiration then, but as their needs and wants and the market changes, by the time they're 30 or a little older than that, they might find out they want to do something. They may have liked something that they was willing to learn in school, and they like to take the test. But they may find when they get out, the curriculum that they learned in college was good to learn, but it may not be what they want to do in life. They might say, well, I want a career change or do a career that's different from what I learned. So now it's a matter of learning the other skills and abilities, perfecting those and providing that service to that niche, and continue to learn. And learning is ongoing. You got to. I read about 2 to 4 books every month.
Wow, that's 50 books a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
In my skills. So learning is going to be a lifelong process. Don't just think, because I got my degree, or I've taught persons with degrees or persons with master's degrees. I have a friend of mine. They teach college at different schools, but I tell them, once you get your MBA, it doesn't stop, because once you get your MBA, after 2 years, you got your degree, but really, although it has the title of master's degree, what have you really mastered?
Mr. Guest, I'm reminded when we were in the boardroom many years ago, and we had a doctor there, and I won't say what company he worked for, but it was a company. I'll say the first part of his name. It started with an R, but he represented an acquisition. He was on their board representing an acquisition, and we were going over what constituted accounts receivables.
Yes.
And he tried to argue me down on what, and he was a doctor now. And guys, I want you to understand, I have no formal education.
PhD in finance.
And so I graduated from high school, and that was it. Everything else I've learned, it was trial and error, hard knocks, and reading books and experience of other people. But he tried to argue me down, and then later he apologized and stuff like that. But this man had a PhD.
And I have a PhD.
Okay.
I have a PhD in getting results.
Well, he had a different PhD from some traditional school. Right. But, Vince, why is reading so important, and why is trying to learn more about your expertise and things of that nature, of what service or business you're going to be in, so critical?
Again, lifelong education is important. I mean, the market's a moving target. What we are experiencing now in the marketplace, in terms of computers, in terms of the internet, in terms of all these different outlets for media, it's changing at a phenomenal rate. And if you don't keep up, you're going to get behind. The U.S., it's not like it was 30, 40 years ago when the U.S. economy was more self-contained. It's no longer insulated. We have a global economy. We're offshoring
yes, we do.
Services. We're outsourcing information. So if you don't keep up, you're going to get behind. So you want somebody to say, when I need someone to do this, these are the guys. This is the gal. This is the guy or who can do this. Plus, you want to be an expert in what you do in one or two fields. And one of the key areas, in business, there are 4 major areas of business. There's management, there's operations, there's marketing, and finance. Those are the four major areas of business. And within those major areas of business, they have subsets. Like marketing is a major area of business. But below marketing, you have subsets. You have promotions. You have sales. You have advertising. You have distribution. You have public relations. Those are all subsets of marketing. In terms of finance, you have corporate finance. You have corporate finance. You have accounting. Okay, you have managerial finance. Those are all subsets of finance, accounts receivable, payable. So when you talk, someone just learned finance, there's all aspects of finance. And same thing with management and operations. You have to be able to have a grasp of the fundamentals of all those. But my suggestion is one of the best areas to learn is marketing.
Let me interrupt you. I want everybody to hear that again, because a lot of times a business executive comes out of corporate America and they think because they were successful in corporate America, and maybe I'll pick the field that I specialize in, they were running the finance department. They think they know it. But then they get into business and then they fail and they don't understand why.
Well, here's the reason why. Let me give you this analogy. For example, you all know who Pep Boys is. It's the auto repair and parts shop. They're all around the country. Okay, I live out in Long Beach, California. I'm here visiting here in Charlotte. You take Pep Boys. You might go to school to become an automotive technician, and maybe you've been at Pep Boys for maybe 10, 15, 20 years, and you might be their top automotive technician. They bring any kind of car. You can fix any kind of mechanical problem, pneumatic problem with the car, electrical problem with that car. And all of a sudden you say, I've been at Pep Boys making X amount of dollars for 10, 15, 20 years. I want to start my own business like Pep Boys. Well, so you go out there and you get some money. You go out there and rent or buy a garage, a retail spot, and you open up, you hang out your shingle, and you start your own automotive repair shop. Well, here's the problem with that. With Pep Boys, Pep Boys ran advertising. They had marketing. They had TV.
They had a machine.
Radio. They had advertising on the internet. They sent out direct mail pieces. So all you had to do was show up at work, and somebody brought the cars in, right? You didn't have to go out there and market to bring those customers. Now, when you needed parts on the other side of Pep Boys, they had a warehouse. You walk over there or get somebody else to assist you. I need these parts for the car. They brought them over. When those parts get low, Pep Boys orders them from the dealership or the manufacturer and so forth. So you start your own little Pep Boys, right? So you got this garage with maybe 5 or 6 bays, and you open it up on the 1st of January, and you don't have any customers because you'd have to get them. And you don't have any parts. You don't have any filters and spark plugs and engine parts, because you don't have the money to buy. So you said, well, now, so you got to put on your marketing cap and go out there and do some advertising, TV, radio, direct mail, internet ads, maybe junk mail. You got to drive in. So you got to put on your marketing and advertising cap first. Then when those customers come in, then you got to take off your marketing cap and put on your operations cap and go fix those cars. Once those cars get fixed, guess what? You got you got to collect the money, invoice, pay them. Then you got the finance, you got the accounting aspects, bookkeeping aspects. You got payroll to meet, taxes to pay. See, Pep Boys had people on staff who handled all that.
Who were proficient in what they were doing.
Right. So while you're sitting there waiting with your 6 car bays empty, you're paying your lease or mortgage on that business, and you're going broke because nobody's driving customers in. So now you got to put your marketing cap on to do that, put your operations cap on to fix it. You got to have your management cap on to do all the management things, and then you got to now take care of the financial piece, accounting, receivables, payables, taxes, federal, state. So that's the myth of saying, because I'm a mechanic, I can own and run a Pep Boys, which means you got to go to school, take some training in management and marketing and finance and operations.
Vince, I think my audience missed that. And that was extremely valuable information, because I tell the audience, and I tell people all the time, if you have some money, don't go out and spend your money on what you think you should be spending it on, let's say getting that bay. so that you can bring those cars in. Don't go out getting the website and the business cards. You need to go to a professional who understands, who can help guide you through some of these other core things that you actually need to know. Vince said there was 4 of them. I totally agree, because you may not be an expert in all 4, but you're going to need to be proficient. And again, I'm going to say that, proficient in all 4 if you're going to be an entrepreneur. And if you're not proficient and you're not learning and studying and reading, okay, because you can't just read about being a mechanic. You're going to have to read about doing marketing, read about budgets, read about finance. You got to read, okay, people. So, Vince, I want you to go over that one more time, because that was some really good stuff.
Okay. I won't give the illustration about pet boards again, but
give another one.
Yeah, but with
man, got me excited.
but with any kind of I'll give you another real life one in my own experience. When I worked in corporate America, and I was managing some of the biggest plants and facilities in the United States, in fact, in the whole world. And then I ended up, we arranged, and when you're managing, for example, and I was managing the facility, the site, the 2 million square foot facility in Irvine. It was called the Park Place site. It was owned by Trammell Crow Winthrop Management. In fact, it's right off of Jamboree and Michelson off the 405 near the John Wayne Airport. It's still there. It's worth probably several $billion. And on that property, for example, the mortgage on that property, it was a $180 million loan.
$180 million loan.
It was a $180 million loan. It was.
And I know, guys, just so you know, this is a long time ago. What was that, about 30 years ago?
About 25 years ago. But it was a $180 million loan. It was due in 30. Interest rate was 10%. It was due in 10. But here's my point. But then McGuire Properties bought out that property a few years back. Anyway, then CBRE bought out Trammell. CBRE, I think, brought up. They brought out Trammell Crow. Anyway, what I'm saying is this: when I was managing properties like that, when you got loans like $10 million, $100 million, I worked for those companies as a corporate executive. Right. Then I decided to leave corporate and start my own business. So there was a lot of things I knew, some things I didn't know. I had to learn very fast to get the fundamentals in the other areas. So where I remember when that $180 million loan became due, I was negotiating that loan on behalf of Trammell Crow. Prudential Insurance Company had did that loan. It was syndicated. There was 35 lenders, and they were trading that paper on Wall Street, right? So now I didn't have to have a real estate license or a mortgage license or a finance license because I worked under the corporate umbrella. When I left corporate, I wanted to start my own mortgage company and doing real estate loans, residential loans, and also commercial loans. Well, I had to have a license for a broker now. So now I had to go back to school and take all the classes in the state of California. You have to have a bachelor's degree in real estate. My background was engineering and management. So now either have to have a bachelor's degree in real estate or 2 years experience in the business, and you have to take all the core courses that it takes to get a BA in real estate.
Wow.
So I had the experience, and I had to go back to school. I took classes online. So all the core courses you need to get a BA in real estate. I had to take those classes, and you have to submit the transcripts to the Department of Real Estate, state of California. They verify that, and then I had to take the time, the effort, pass the class, pass the state exam. I got my license. Now here's my other point. So I had to get that training. I had some friends of mine who had worked with some banks like Washington Mutual before they went down, and some other major banks. They were loan officers, and they had been loan officers and doing loans for those banks for like maybe 10, 15 years. I had never done those for a bank. I had done bigger loans than they had done on the commercial side for corporations. Now I was going to do residential loans and then some smaller commercial loans, right? So now I had to learn that. But now I had to learn how to market those things. I had to learn about real estate finance, real estate economics. I had to learn about appraisals. I had to learn how to take courses in escrow, real estate law, because now I was in a different arena. So I'm like the Pep Boys guy. If I didn't learn how to do the other aspects, if I got to drive people into my mortgage business, if I didn't learn those other, and then how to manage a real estate mortgage company, I had to take those classes, pass them, and of course get my license with the state. Now I could drive business in, but I had several friends, I won't say their names, they had been working for major banks for years. They left those companies like the auto technician at Pep Boys. They set up their own mortgage companies and they failed.
Why did they fail?
They failed because they had the Pep Boys technician mentality. They thought because I'm a loan officer with Bank of America or Wells Fargo, I can do loans of my own. But remember, when Wells Fargo runs TV ads and radio ads and internet ads and BFA, so they got a massive marketing machine. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars to drive in those customers. People apply for loans online. So as a loan officer with a BFA at Wells Fargo, somebody hands you a lead. Here's a qualified lead, and here's an app somebody put online to buy a home in L.A. or Chicago. All you do is sit at your desk, and they just feed you leads. With the guy from Pep Boy, he started his own shop. Nobody's feeding him leads. So when I started my business, the first thing I did was I put together a marketing and advertising plan so I could drive in qualified leads and customers, or else I would have had this nice, good-sized office paying rent and gas and light and operating costs, and I would have been out of business. So they did not learn the marketing piece. They thought because I know how to, take a loan application and go through the underwriting process, I can help a loan business. That's just a small aspect. So they started their businesses and they were out of business. In fact, they would come to me and ask me, how come your business is booming? We were booming at some point. We grew our business. We started in Corona, California, and we grew it in a matter of a few short years. We were doing business in about 26 states.
That's huge. That's really huge.
Yeah, nationwide.
So that was about the time that I met you, and you were able to do my first $1 million loan on my first property.
Right.
And everyone was giving me the runaround. It's been a blessing in my life to know you, because I tell people all the time, you're one of the smartest people I've ever met.
Well, I appreciate
Black
that.
or white, and you also one of the people that I hold dear to my heart and that I love as a person, as a human being. Okay, and I respect his knowledge.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And the knowledge that he has to share with you, I want you guys to really pay attention, because there's so many people that go out into business and they think it's easy. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to use this low vocabulary stuff again because some of you don't understand it. Fuck that shit. This shit is hard as hell, okay? There's no rewards for not finishing. I know a lot of you may have grew up in a society where everybody gets a trophy on the team. Vince and I, we didn't grow up where, hey, you got a trophy for just playing the sport. You had to be the superstar and things of that nature. Your team had to win. And that's the way business is. You don't just get a trophy or say, oh, I'm in business, and show a business card or a website and think you're about to make a lot of money. It's hard, people. It's really freaking hard. And what Vince is sharing with you is some of you out there think, oh, okay, I got this really neat job. I'm making 6 figures or whatever I'm making, and I'm going to leave that job, place my family at risk, and go start this business. And I'm going to be successful. Bullshit. That's not going to happen. You're going to fail. And I failed more than anyone, because I was that dumb kid that went out and just tried to do the business and kept trying to do the business and had to learn the hard way. So I guess I was that hard-headed kid. See, I wasn't as smart as Mr. Guest, where I turned around and said, oh, okay, let me read something. I had to learn it the hard way. And then later I started reading, and as I started reading, I started figuring out things a little bit quicker. As I found me some mentors, I started figuring out things a little faster. So Vince, what was your experiences like in business, the valleys?
Well, it's one of the things that I did when I was young, Besides reading, was taking classes online. Because of course, when I was young, we didn't have there was no online, so it was correspondence. They would send you the packet in the mail from the college. But anyway, books, things, mentors. One of the things when you're going to have some setbacks. Okay, everybody has setbacks, and you're going to have, but that doesn't mean total failure. So if you have those setbacks, be ready to bounce back. Analyze what happened.
I like that. Have a setback, be ready to bounce back.
Yeah, be ready to bounce back, because there's things that you will do right. There's things you're going to do wrong. There are things in the economy that are out of your control that change. There's regulatory issues with your state that might affect your company, that might set you back. There might be things in terms of federal regulations that might affect your business. There might be things in terms of competition that might affect your business. Changes in terms of products that are liked or are no longer liked, and discarded services. Americans are fickle. What we like this year, some other new little trinket or toy, pet rock, Cabbage Patch doll, they come and go. So from that standpoint, you have to be ready to bounce back. When it comes to failures, one of the things that I've had mine. Well, one of the things that I've always tried to do to either avoid it as much as I can. When I was a young kid, I always watched people, and I looked at people who were successful. First of all, I said, well, even to this day, if I want to do something in any area of business, I look, find out who out there are in the top 10% in the country or the world of doing what it is I want to do. I don't want the person in the lower 150. Who are out there in the top 10%? Okay, whatever it is, in their service, their craft, their industry. Now, what can I do? And who are some of the more admired persons or admired companies that I may want to not copy but emulate, right? And what did they do to succeed, and how did they fail? And I emulate that. Now, I also look at people who failed. I've studied people who failed, and I looked at businesses that failed. Why did they fail, and how can I avoid doing what they did? And that narrows the gap. Now, having said that, as you asked the other question, when I was young, I had some other little businesses I started, but when I had my other company, Aegis Energy International, business was going good. We had a good little marketing plan, but our business, we used direct mail. We had word of mouth. All our companies were Fortune 100 firms. And then that company went good. We were making a lot of money. I was a young guy. I was making maybe in my early 30s, I was making about probably $40,000. I was probably about maybe 31, 32, making about $40,000 a month, living out in an apartment. I was just doing wonderful until, of course, our business was capital intensive, which means the companies that we consulted with, we would do an assessment on their plants, their businesses. We would go in and then retrofit their equipment, lighting, HVAC, because they've cost sometimes hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. And if they like, we get a contract. But then a recession came, the economy changed. As I didn't know a lot about economics, right? And how regulatory issues could change. So if the government changes the tax code and says, well, the deductions you were getting before, you can't get. And so the recession came. So now what happened was we ended up losing contracts, went out of business. So I learned from that. Now I went way out of business, lost everything. Then I had to come back. Yeah.
Vince, I went through a recession with you in the last business, and we had acquired a company, NDR Energy Group, which I still control today. But I remember when we were going through the recession, and we had just acquired this. You were the CEO of the company. We had just acquired the company, and we got them a line of credit. I don't know what it was for, but a really large dollar amount. But because of their, I'm going to use the word ignorance. You can use a different word because they were some assholes. Excuse me. You guys might want to cut that out. But I'm going to use the word ignorance. During one of the greatest recessions in 2000, right after 2008 that this country has known, we got them a huge line of credit. Could you tell and speak to that?
Actually, we had one that we had closed. I think it was about maybe $10 million. It was out of an asset-based lender in Texas. Took us quite a bit of time to get it qualified for. We had actually funded on that line, and unfortunately, some of the employees that work for us, when you're doing business, you got to make sure you're in business with the right people, because the wrong people, if they're going to swindle you, lie, cheat, if they're not people, go into business with people who are men and women of integrity, honestly. Because what they did was we had arranged that line, and the line worked. We funded, but they had contacted that lender and gave them some misinformation, and they canceled that line, which cost us potentially tens of millions of dollars. That's one that we did close on. And there was another transaction, you remember, we were arranging a $300 million credit line with Wells Fargo for asset-based lending to buy natural gas. It was a $15 million a month, $300 million, $25 million a month, $300 million a year, and they ended up costing us to lose that line by doing some things that were not quite appropriate. So that caused our business to not achieving. We were looking to take a business from about 80 to 100 million to about $1 billion, but they, because of what they did, it kind of canceled that.
So, being unevenly yoked, because that's what I refer to that as, being unevenly yoked. Is that a good thing, bad thing? What do you say?
Being unevenly yoked is a terrible thing. If you're with persons that don't have integrity, they're not honest. They don't want, if they're lazy, if they don't want to work, if they don't have good work ethics, it's good to understand. They need to have good values, right? And if you're picking your partners that work with you in business, or if you have a corporation, your board of directors, or you're in a limited partnership or an LLC, whoever you bring on board that's going to be working intimately with you, you need to make sure that, and I'm saying this twice, make sure that their values, their personal and business values, are aligned with your personal and business values. If they don't, you will fail.
Okay. Mr. Guest, I need to thank you because they're giving me the sign it's time to wrap up for coming on MBA, Minority Business Access. But before we go, what I would like to do is, how do our audience reach you to get help that they may need from your company?
They can contact me. I'll give you my phone number.
Okay.
My direct line, we have several. My direct line is 951-220-2468, 951-220-2468. We're on the West Coast in the LA metro area. You can call me there.
Well,
Or I can give you my email address. If you want,
I'm going to ask you for that one more time because I'm still just on the 951.
Right.
So if you will say and repeat that again so the audience can get a hold of you, how do they reach you?
Okay. Phone number is 951-220-2468. Again, that's 951-220-2468. And the company is UnCommon Rezultz, and that's with an REZULTZ. So my email address is V, like in Vince, M, and then guest, GUEST, at UnCommon Rezultz. And that's with a REZLUTZ.com.
Now, people, I want you to understand, and everything that you hear me saying about, and I think I'm pretty successful, and I'm pretty humble about it because I've been up and I've been down. So I've been to the mountaintop, as Martin Luther King would say, and I've been in the dang pits with the devil, and I'm not in the pits anymore, so the devil done got his butt kicked. All right. So I bring you these people so that they can help and be a blessing in your lives as they have been a blessing and a help to me in my life. Okay. No man is an island. No man achieves greatness alone. It takes a team and teamwork to go out and achieve greatness. And I know a lot of you are trying to figure out, what do you do? Okay. How do you do it? Well, you call a person like Mr. Guest, Vince Guest, UnCommon Rezultz, and you say, okay, I need a mentor. I need some help in crafting my business, my contracts, things of that nature, so that you know that you're standing on solid ground, a good foundation. And everyone I bring you is going to bring you that so that you can move your business to the next level and not fall in these various minefields. Okay. I want to thank you all for tuning in, listening to Minority Business Access. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, listening to Minority Business Access. Our goal here is to help you to become more and more successful, especially the people of color, minorities out there, because if we can get you to become more successful, we can lift up that ship once and for all and help move our economy in the right direction and do things for ourselves rather than looking for others.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Minority Business Access Podcast. Connect with us at solomonrcali.info to leave a review and access more resources. We hope you enjoyed this show and found great value. See you at the next episode.